What is going on, everybody? And welcome back to Salty Runback, here to be your weekly intake of North American Developmental League of Legends.
More importantly,
that feeling
welcome to 2025,
just
and
a couple
welcome
of
to
days. One of the biggest weekends of League of Legends in North America is going to happen. CLOL will have begun. The 32-team bracket will take place. 16 entire best of fives all in one day to start things off, and then of course round after round after round, weekend after weekend on our road to Raleigh, North Carolina for the grand finals at NC State University. We're gonna do a little bracket reveal, talk about the teams, talk about the bracket, and pick who we think are going to take the entire crown. My name is Grapes, joined alongside Hawk. Hawk, how are you doing today?
Grapes, I'm doing fantastic. I had a day off work today. It was very chill. Kind of just vegged, as one should on a day off work. And we get to talk all about the bracket because this is the most wonderful time of the year for a League of Legends fan. No, it's not the holidays. It is CLOL. This is the tournament of the year. I think both of us could agree that this is what we look forward to every single time. I love nothing more than to follow this shit, and yeah, it's gonna be a lot of best of fives all at once. Kind of a shame that they're happening all at once, but it does mean that we at least have quite a bit of League of Legends to be watching for the next 4 weeks on that road to Raleigh, and then grand finals taking place on May 31st. It is going to be a grand time.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been following us for the entire year, you know we've been throwing some CLOL headlines in there every once in a while, talking about the collegiate scene as the regular season is unfolding. If you're a patron, you might be watching some CLOL Office Hours. A new episode of that will come out tomorrow, as you are seeing this most likely. But now we are finally here. All that discussion, all that build-up, all this following teams, power ranking them year after year, it's all going to come down to this little bracket that will be starting again this Saturday. You can check out, I believe it is Saints Gaming CA for the official stream, and then there's going to be a ton of other co-streams available. I think we'll probably turn something on Saturday. I just don't know in what capacity specifically just yet. But once we do know more details, we'll be posting it on all of our socials. So make sure you send a follow down there at Salty Runback NA on all of our platforms. That includes Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, which we might be streaming on this weekend, and then of course the Patreon, where you can support us as well as get some additional bonus content.
Yeah, and be sure to subscribe. You guys were crushing it on the subs for a while. We're getting close to 300 after we shattered 200 about a month ago. Let's keep it rolling. Let's get to 1,000. It would be very much appreciated from everybody out there. And join the Discord. I guarantee, I will stake my life on this claim, that there will not be a better place to follow CLOL and to chat with the community that is following CLOL than our Discord. This is going to be the home of CLOL 2025 for all the fans out there. So click the link in the description. It's going to be a great time. But we have an episode to get to. We have a bracket to crack on with. Those that watched the reveal show, if you will, it was more of like a reaction show that I did with Sean Atonin. Shout out Sean, would know that I announced what we're doing already. But Grapes, we got some brackets on deck.
Yeah, you know, at March Madness, people fill out their brackets, and so we decided to do the same. We do this kind of every year. This is our third season of filling out our CLOL bracket and predicting things, but obviously now things have changed a little bit in the format. We went from a single elim to a modified double elim, where it was single elim until top 8, and then it was double elim after that. And now we get another version of double elim. All best of fives, by the way, from minute 1, from the round 1 upper and lower brackets, and the top 16 teams start in the upper bracket, bottom 16 teams start in the lower bracket. And again, 16 of those series starting at the exact same time. It's gonna be fun, Hawk, and I'm really excited to get into things, dive into what these matchups are going to look like, because the way the bracket shook out leaves us with some really, really interesting matchups, even in this first week.
So let's really quick take a look at what the field is for this this tournament. If you didn't get to see the bracket reaction show that I did with Sean, we're going to like kind of quickly recap all that business. So right here, I have the teams as they were seeded by the committee. Now, it's really important to note that on the bracket itself, There are some teams that have adjusted seeding to account for potential region team kills. The idea was to not have region team kills happen within the first 3 rounds, I believe it was. There's one mistake in the bracket that Grapes and I just saw, but it's probably fine. And then everything else, like the teams are actually seeded 1 through 32 as well. This also, you can see who the voting teams are. So this is the field as it was rated. Grapes, I guess, initial reactions, takeaways. You did not get to give your on-stream reaction, so I'm kind of curious to hear like what takes you may have about this.
Well, first of all, I think this proves that I was right in the last episode, as Illinois State are ranked ahead of St. Clair. Fisher ahead of Winthrop as well, though, which does mean that like some of the audience might be coping a little bit in different ways. But yeah, I think I've realized kind of as we've gone through this and as the seedings have been unveiled, things like that, that we really do have like the tiers kind of really do match up with where I feel like the teams are situated. I feel like other than Maryville, who I think kind of is in a tier of its own, you can see they're a unanimous number one. Everybody on the committee had them at first seed. After that, I think there's like a next group of like 6. You can include ISU in that mix, or 5, I should say, like UST, Ole Miss, Fisher. No. Then St. Clair down to Purdue Northwest, I think is kind of their own tier as well. And then after that, things like are, I think, really open up after we get past the top 12. So that's kind of where I'm standing here on this. I mean, you could throw St. Clair in there or not. Like, I think the consensus that we were seeing in the reactions on our social medias does seem to have people think that ISU does belong in that higher tier, and St. Clair kind of belongs in the group below. But obviously, there's different agreements there.
Put a bow on the argument that we've been having for the last 2 days. I did say in a reply to Barlow, I do generally agree with the sentiment that I think ISU like definitely has the potential to be the stronger team. It's just like, again, I was voting based on resume for St. Clair. So I just want to put that part of things to bed. I do think ISU is a very strong team. Okay.
Yeah, resume based on St. Clair, but not resume based on Winthrop. So,
It's because I've seen more tape of Winthrop, but we're not doing this right now. It's fine.
If you want to hear our reaction,
I think
go
the
to
most
last
important
episode.
thing is I'm generally very okay with the seeding and agree with it. I think literally every team is placed like about where they should be and about in the tier that they should be. The one exception that I actually do have is Grandview, who ended up being the 9 below UCI, who I know Grapes, you and I at least seem to agree. Sean agreed as well that they could get bumped up to the 8 seed. And in the bracket, as we'll come to see, because of some of the like again the avoiding region team kills and stuff, Grandview actually gets put as the 10, and are playing against an ISU that ended up getting put as the 7 where I had them. So we get Grandview ISU for the fucking 3rd year in a row in the first round of the tournament, which is extremely funny. But now they're actually 2 like I think like heavyweights in the tournament for the first time. So I think that's kind of the one thing where I look at the bracket and I'm like, that feels, or the seating specifically, and I'm like, that feels a little bit unlucky. But everything else, I think I generally agree with, and like think even if a team is like off one spot for I would have put them, like it doesn't really matter. Like they're all in relatively fairly rated.
Yeah, other than like in terms of like everyone's kind of like within 2 or 3 of like where I had them on my ballot, I'm pretty sure. And generally the pool is actually the groups A through H, like most of the teams are pretty consistent within them as well. The only difference is like maybe one of the teams that had like the last in Group B was actually my first out in Group C. Like that maybe happened a little bit down there.
Each of us fully 100% predicted the upper bracket and the lower bracket as well, which is like good that no team got like shafted out of the upper bracket or like shoot in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there were some USF. There was definitely some USF fans, so you can see the full voting somewhere as
They've
well.
had high highs. I mean, they are heroes or zeros on any given day. I'll give USF that.
Yeah, and then we get towards the bottom of things, where I feel like this generally is pretty consistent with where you had them both in CLOL Hub. The exception, of course, being San Jose State, who kind of jump all the way up to 21 because of their performance in the Battle on the Bubble, which I feel like is really cool to see, like an event that we put on like have major implications actually of what the bracket looks like. I feel like San Jose State would have probably been like a high G, low F, maybe even low G team if we didn't get to see them play some more games against teams like Cal. So that's very exciting to me.
Speaking of the Battle of the Bubble as well, people will notice Texas did manage to play their way into the tournament with their win over Northeastern. Northeastern, unfortunately, was the first team out. As far as the other at-large bids, so you have Texas, you have the expected 4 of Winthrop, Fisher, Northwood, and then MEC2, which ended up being Purdue Northwest. So that's 5. You have Minnesota, Carleton, and Ohio State, 3rd seed out of the MEC, ended up sneaking in as well. So those bottom 2, Ohio State and Texas, were fairly contentious. I believe the other 6 were relatively unanimous from based on what I saw. So congratulations to those 8 teams for being able to lock up their spots. Commiserations to everybody that just did not quite make the cut. There were a lot of conversations in the committee Discord about who those last couple of teams should be. I think Ohio State and Texas, you can't say they don't deserve it though. And I mean, it kind of goes into the take that I had on our last week's episode, which is I feel like it really feels like we're starting to see the top 32 teams in the nation generally being at this tournament, with like Texas being one of those at-large teams, but they're still an 8 seed. So we feel that like one of these teams we voted in is still one of the weakest. They truly are one of those last teams in. So it's cool to see them here, but it means there's that many great teams above them.
I do think we would have gotten closer to the like full 32 teams being voted in if we didn't have like the certain restrictions on number, like capping the number of teams that could be voted in from each conference. But yeah. So I don't. It's less of a credit to the system and more of a credit to just what the teams and how balanced CLOL and how competitive the teams in CLOL as a whole kind of are against each other. Yeah, part of me still is low key thinking that like East Conference could have gotten like 8 teams in if we're just like purely counting that, but it's not. That's not how it works anymore. Like we just completely took these teams and like stopped considering them as soon as they got knocked out. But like, would a University of Toronto beat a Texas? Like maybe, probably, but we just never are gonna think about it because that's how the format works. So regardless,
in the second round of playoffs, I mean, I will say I think even if we had unlimited teams per region, I think it would have been pretty criminal if U of T got it.
That was a hyper extreme example.
Sentiment of what you're saying, I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
All right, so on your screens right here, we do have a blank version of the bracket. You can see this is the upper bracket, round 1. I guess again, we reacted to a lot of this on the stream yesterday, but Grapes, I want to toss it over to you first. Just like initial reactions. I know for me, again, ISU Grandview, holy fuck, that is must-watch League of Legends, man. Like, anything else?
Yeah, I think the big thing that you might be, if you again are kind of confused why teams are in different places than you might have expected them. For example, like Ole Miss being at 2 versus UST being at 3. Again, the bracket was adjusted and swapped around to make it so that in the first 2 rounds in general, you were not playing a team from the same conference as you. And so there weren't like inter-region kills early on. And that specifically mattered here in the upper bracket because 4 teams were from the NECC in the upper bracket. And so that meant that they had to be very specifically placed alongside like different quadrants of the bracket to make sure that everybody belonged. And it seemed like, according to the admins at the time creating the bracket, the best way to do it was to swap UST and Ole Miss. I think they also swapped ISU down to 7 from 6, and then move St. Clair up from 7 to 5, and then I think swap down somebody else into that 6th spot, being I think Winthrop. So that is kind of why things like that have shaken up. But we do have some interesting matchups here apart from ISU Grandview in the upper bracket. We have Purdue Northwest versus St. Clair. I think could be pretty fun. Northwood versus UCI. Will be good. This is a great litmus test for Northwood. I know that they probably are feeling a little miffed that a team with the players that they have on their roster were seeded as low as they were, but getting a test against the West Conference champions in round 1, I think is going to be a very good opportunity for them to prove that, like, okay, we're really locked in now, and like this is going to be a different Northwood than the one that you saw lose games to Michigan in the lower bracket.
I feel like potential battle of the frauds right there, because a lot of people looking at Northwood is like, damn, they might suck, and then UCI, it's not even this roster, it's just like the UCI sort of like, West has been a little shit for a few years now. I am still so sad that that's not Grandview personally, just because, again, like I do feel like Grandview's kind of getting shafted by all of the seating changes, but it is going to be a great match between them and Illinois State. So I don't want to harp on it too much. Like, you got to play the hand that you're given, and holy fuck, that's going to be a good one. I agree that UCI Northwood is going to be a good one. Other ones, honestly, St. Clair, Purdue Northwest, I think could sneakily be more exciting than people may expect, just given like kind of the seedings at face value. Um, Maryville is probably gonna not drop a game for like 3 rounds. A lot of good stuff in here.
Yeah. Can we move on to the? Can we scroll down to the lower bracket? Is that what we can do? As well. So our next date down here on the bottom, again, all taking place at the same time. There's going to be some reschedules, and some moving around in terms of when these matchups are taking place. But for the most part, expect things to begin around 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, and have almost all of these games happening kind of at the same time. That's just the way the schedule was set up for maximum chaos, per se, in the college landscape. So everybody's going to be watching everyone at the same time. Here we are in the lower bracket, though. Again, not the teams that like we're as excited about in terms of prospects of winning a national championship, but definitely teams that have earned the opportunity to compete here. And it actually lined up that we get some pretty fun narrative matchups to start things off, Hawk. We get two of the vote-in teams at 24 and 25 immediately off the bat in Carleton and Minnesota, the two regional fifth seeds from the North and the East, respectively. We then have Bethany against OC, the third seed from the North against the fourth seed from the West, from the South.
Fourth seed from both.
Sorry, fourth seed from both. Yeah, actually, where some people consider them to be maybe not so strong and maybe a little bit fraudulent too. So that'll be a fun little matchup to watch there. And then you get other stuff like I think low key like Nova Stony Brook could be interesting. I know that Stony Brook is generally considered to be pretty solid, but who knows what they look like after having some weeks off and things like that. And then I think across the board, you have kind of your bottom feeders coming in as well, that we maybe are less excited for, but still have the opportunity to pull off upsets. I mean, if anything, with the battle on the bubble, kind of explained to us is that any team can kind of beat anybody once we get towards this bottom tier here.
Yeah, I think the only teams that I look at as being like safe in this first round is like South Florida, probably Ball State, and UHSP. I think these three teams are probably safe in their first round matches. Everybody else, I think, it is in like upset watch just by virtue of like exactly what you said. Battle of the Bubble definitely showed us that just like these teams any given day definitely can beat each other. You know, like Purdue and Cal. I don't think these two teams. I think these were the two teams that like did not play in Battle of the Bubble, if I'm not mistaken, which is so funny.
Yeah.
Every team. So there were 6 teams, right? And each of them played 4 of the others, and then not one. And so we're gonna get to see them play. Cal obviously will be at full strength, as opposed to what they were at in Battle of the Bubble. You know, San Jose State, Ohio State, like we've had a lot of questions about like, is Ohio State good or do they play in the MEC? You know what I mean? Like, is that what's true? Which way's up? I think we're gonna learn a lot from that partner conference showdown early on. Definitely a lot of really great matches starting things off, and it's only going to continue like immediately in the second round of the lower bracket. We have some crazy kills.
Yeah, that's just the way things work. Early on, you're gonna have to play against you know, a team from the top 16 in round 2, like immediately. So that's how things work. We don't want to unveil any brackets just yet, but this is kind of the general sense of like what day 2 looks like, which by the way is the day after this. So if you're a team that loses in the upper bracket or wins in the lower bracket, you have to play 2 best of 5s back to back.
If you're in the lower bracket, you are playing like your weekends for the next few weeks are gone. It's best of 5 and a best of 5 and a best of 5.
And yeah, so let's look at this real quick. If you either win if you're either in the lower bracket or you lose in the upper bracket round 1, you have to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 best of 5s to win CLOL. So that is a lot of league that you're gonna have to play, and of course, all but one of them taking place over 4 weeks. So that means every weekend, every Saturday and Sunday for 4 straight weeks, you have to win a best of 5 in order to make it.
It's a long road.
Bracket.
But I mean, God, what a story that would be though. If like a team that loses in round 1 does it, it'd be real the Citadel core.
Except they didn't win it. They didn't make it all the way at the end, which is a little bit unfortunate.
But they played the max number though. They ran the 8 best of 5 gauntlet or best of 3 gauntlet. They just didn't win that final game, but they still played that final series. So it's still like they played all the games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and because it's 64, it actually ends because it was 64 instead of 32. Because we skipped the lower finals and grand finals portion of that bracket, it would be the same number of games, except it's best of 5 instead of best of 3, which is pretty insane. So that's gonna be a fun thing to watch here. I think we spent enough of our time kind of going through the bracket, Hawk. We talked about some of the important matchups, but let's dive into them a little bit deeper by actually unveiling what we have in terms of our picks here.
All right, yeah, we're going to go round by round with it. So starting with my first round in the upper bracket, drum roll please. It's not all chalk. Boom, there it is. Grandview taking the upset over ISU. Purdue Northwest going the distance against St. Clair. And everything else after that's pretty much chalk. But those two, though, are pretty fun.
Yeah, you have Grandview over the Redbirds right now in round 1. I guess they beat them in the NACE Super Conference. However, that was the span of like a really bad week for ISU as a whole, where I think they suffered a lot of pain that week specifically, both in terms of the games that they played and also in terms of the knowledge that their program would be discontinuing at the end of the year, apparently. So, you're saying that's gonna go Grandview's way this time, though?
In a 5-game series as well. Look, I think this is going to be absolute cinema. You've got Fatican versus Nightstar. I have just decided ever since I watched the Dog Fans that I'm a Nightstar super fan this year, I think. So I gotta keep buying in. I just think this is going to be electric. Like Castle against Music, Nightstar against Fatican. You've got Ariana versus PCL. Like, come on, dude. This is peak, like, just like old school League of Legends. 3rd year in a row these two teams are playing against each other. I definitely think Grandview, I think it definitely could be considered an upset, but I think it's absolutely within the realm of possibility, and you got to pick an upset. Like, you can't just go all chalk across 8 games.
I think it would definitely be an upset, even though I think it would not be a super surprising upset, both given the history between these two teams and how it always seems like the team that we're not expecting to win does actually end up winning. And also, I feel like ISU have gotten the better hand of things in recent years specifically, or maybe it was back in 2022 when it was.
I think Grandview beat them last year.
Yeah, so Grandview beat them last year, but that was because they had like a sub playing, I think. But that's because Disconnector wasn't their bot laner anymore. But the year before, I think ISU won, and I think that season even I was maybe favoring Grandview a little bit here. I think the solo lanes are relatively even, slightly Grandview favored. The jungle is pretty ISU favored. And I think the bot lane is decently ISU favored. I think also including the fact that Barlow is on ISU compared to Inflame.
I think it's not as ISU favored as people want to think, but I do agree it is Redbird favored. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say the closest. However, I would say the closest matchups is probably like mid and then maybe top after that. And within those rankings, like those are the two that I see having the edge for GVU. I would say that bot lane is more favored towards ISU than like the solo lanes are for Grandview.
I definitely do agree with your take though, that I think Castle's gonna have his work cut out for him in that series, but come on, Castleberry's got it.
It'd be fun. I think spoiler. I think I also have this going 5 games. As I just have ISU winning instead.
Should I just flip over to yours because I feel like everything else?
Yeah,
in my bracket
we can flip over to mine.
Doesn't require much description here.
I think my take actually is that like there are tiers of things, and because of that, like I have very much chalk in round 1, and I'm not super like upset about it or going to be super like. I'm not gonna be super defensive about it. Like I just think that these teams.
You got your classic 8-9 upset that every March Madness picker has.
Yeah,
to take,
but
you know?
to me, Northwood just like on paper should be the better team, and I think they have something to prove a little bit. I could also see them just completely like choking and losing to UCI, but in my opinion, Northwood, despite being the lower seed, could be considered to be the favorites over UCI when you just look at roster. Now, when you look at resume and stuff like that, that could go a little bit different. But when it comes down to it, the guys on Northwood have all like been at the top levels of either tier 3 or tier 2 even, and have been playing on these big stages before. Like they understand what it's like to like have the pressure again like on them, and so I think for them, like this is when they're gonna really lock in. I feel like this is a similar story to what Northwood was like last year, and even like a team like SLU was like last year. So I think they're gonna be a little bit stronger than people anticipate. Maybe some people who like were super down on them are gonna be, even though I think it was just to seed them where we seeded them because of the results that they had during the season, if that makes sense.
No, I definitely think Northwood could be a really strong team based on roster alone. I will say though, like I wouldn't sleep on the fact that like Zhao Danny is good enough easily to keep not just keep up with Reppy. I think Zhao Danny can beat Reppy. I don't know if Cozy's the guy to punish Strumpist, and Gorka and Cerulean definitely have the sauce to keep up with Instinct and Clyde, in my opinion. So like I don't think it'll be that clear cut.
Yeah,
I
it's
do think
competitive, but I
Northwood
do
has
think
the stronger roster,
yeah.
I feel the same way about that as I do about like ISU has the stronger roster than Grandview, where it's like, yeah, but maybe not by as much as people think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have both the favorites winning. I guess like compared to you, you have maybe some more upsets, especially here. I do pick some upsets as we get later on, but I think especially towards the top as we get in as we start things off, there is a bit of a hierarchy. That's why I think we both have UTM getting 3-0'd by Maryville. We both have SCAD getting 3-0'd by Fisher. We both have Weber getting 3-0'd by Ole Miss. We both have Converse taking a game over USD
Shout out
though.
Converse.
So
Dude, Zav's gonna like we've been flaming Converse too much in CLOL Hub. We had to throw him a bone, you know. No, I think Converse has hands. They could do it.
they could totally like USF took a game off of UST, right? And even though it was a different roster, but like it wasn't UST's full roster. Yeah, so I think with Converse, like they have the upside to play competitively against like any team. The problem is like can they do it consistently and can they close out games? Because the biggest time that we got to see them actually play games like against some of these top teams, they played against Northwood, I believe, and UST, or no, UST and St. Clair at the St. Clair LAN a couple of months ago, and they actually had really close games against both UST and St. Clair, but they weren't able to win any of them. But they were able to go band for band with them in basically in both of them. So that's where I can definitely see an angle where like Converse can be competitive, although I do think UST do win the series.
Yeah, I think I generally agree with that. We both have. Oh, you have Winthrop 3-0ing Western. I think I gave Western a game, but yeah. I mean, otherwise, I think everything looking pretty standard. I think we have the differences on the two matches that it makes sense to have the differences on. I think every other match, like Grapes, you and I can both agree it would be a pretty substantial upset if the
Yes.
other teams won. Whereas, like, I think if Grandview beats ISU, it would definitely be an upset, but like it wouldn't be completely crazy. And then definitely with Northwood UCI, I think it's like it's a 50-50, dealer's choice.
Fair enough. That's where we have things lined up right now. Should we move on to the lower bracket portion of things?
All right, so let me make sure my cover is adjusted this time and go ahead and scroll on down so we can see my lower bracket round 1 and their opponents in round 2. Grapes, this time I took all chalk. I'm going to be honest, I don't think there's too many upsets to call here. Like Purdue over UC Berkeley, maybe. We mentioned Nova over Stony Brook, but Stony Brook does feel pretty solid. I gave Nova a game. Looks like the real one that I've got my eyes on is like Carleton versus Minnesota, but not because there's any upset potential. I just think like as we sort of talked about earlier, that's just gonna be a great match. But honestly, I feel like not much to talk about here. It's pretty chalky stuff.
I think especially in the first round of the lower bracket will be like probably the least interesting because I guess we're weeding out like the bottom 8 teams in a way, if that makes sense. But because of that, it does mean that like we get ourselves some fun stuff with a couple of the series in the middle. You think Ball State's gonna take care of CSUN? Bethany 3-0 over OC. I'm not gonna let you run away with that one without having you explain yourself here.
Okay. So hear me out, guys. These are the two most fraudulent teams in League of Legends. Both of them are like have made top 32 natties in like the last few years consecutively. They've been considered contenders within their respective regions, but they're both on a downward trend. And so this series is either going to go one of two ways. Either one of the two teams is just going to absolutely fucking destroy the other, and it's going to be like, wow, that other team was really bad this year. That's the direction that I went. I think it could totally be OC over Bethany, by the way. Like, I just don't really know. or it's going to be like the most disgusting 5-game series that anyone has ever seen in their life, where it's like, holy fuck, I need to purify my eyes after seeing this, and it's going to go like 6 hours. If you hate yourself, you're welcome to predict that, but I have decided that in Battle of the Frauds, it's going to be Bethany 3-0. That's my logic.
Hey, that's pretty. That's very different than what I have. I think I went more into the chaos here as any other matchups specifically that you wanna discuss? I mean, out of
I
all
don't
of
think I
these?
did really too much sauce here, to be honest with
Okay.
you. Like I gave Purdue a couple of games against UC Berkeley, just because UC Berkeley to me seems like a very solid team that like kind of plays to the level of whoever they're playing against, but sort of like uh tries to beat them. You know what I mean? And then they're kind of uncompetitive against the top teams. I do think Purdue has hands. I think we saw good stuff from them in Battle on the Bubble, especially surrounding like their early game planning. I actually think is better than a lot of CLOL teams. So I think they could take a couple games against UC Berkeley. I don't expect them to win the series. I think that will definitely be one of the better series in this lower bracket round one, though, if you're looking for a game to watch. Also, shout out to the UC Berkeley guys and Purdue. Both of those guys have friends of the show now after joining Battle on the Bubble. They've been actually kind of active in our server and shit, and they're pretty cool. So both these teams, like them, going to be a good match. Make sure to watch.
All right. Well, spoiler alert, I also have 3-2 for Cal in that series. Actually, we can move over to my bracket as well. Are we on what I have right now
Yeah,
too?
yeah.
Okay, I have OC over Bethany 3-2. I don't feel good about it at
You
all.
You went for the Demon series.
I feel bad about it. I really do. But
It's gonna be awful.
OC feels like to me that they always they always like as soon as we think they're dead, they come back a little bit. I predicted them to lose to Austin. They 3-1 them. You know, and after that, I don't know. I don't really believe in either of these teams. Like I think
that's
Bethany
the takeaway.
Bethany probably comes into this being the favorite. So I needed an upset somewhere, and this is where I was going to do it. So I have OC beating Bethany. Batal looks like he's been playing a little bit better in the top lane, specifically in the Nace series that they had against USF. Also, Josu, I think, will be better than like a Yoon if he's in the bottom lane. But if it's Dog 2, then maybe they'll be able to contest a little bit more down there. Other matchups that I have San Jose State actually 3-0ing Ohio State. I know that maybe some people thought that could be a bit of a closer series, but I actually do have them winning that one rather hard. Nova, I have going to 5 against Stony Brook. Even though I was the biggest Stony Brook proponent earlier on in the season, I don't know. Something about Nova, they're going to want to come out fighting. And even though I don't think that they're favored, I'm going to give them 5 games. I feel like this is definitely a series that they could win.
I would be down to see it. I want to see Nova succeed. I really actually do appreciate how hard Kangji's been trying to bat for his guys and kind of get them on the map, being like a smaller school that people don't really expect to see in the conversation. So I think that's really admirable. I would love to see them show some spice. I definitely agree. Like I just don't know if I have them beating Stony Brook, because Stony Brook, they beat some good teams in East, and they did it like pretty reliably, like 3-1, 3-1, 3-1. I think they went to 5 games against UTM. Like they had a great run there. So I do think they're a strong team, but if Nova's even, I think, like 3/4 of as good as Kangji says they are, it is a winnable series for them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm going off of. And so if it's a 3-0 and I'm wrong, like, I guess it's fine. I do like Stony Brook, and I think they're going to be, I do hope that they're going to do good, but they also run into a pretty tough matchup next, actually, as we see.
Yeah, this is a great time to interject as well, because I want to say we have pinned in the Discord in our CLOL talk a great bracket. Shout out Phantom from Purdue. Speaking of friends of the show, that they made that like kind of, if you can type in all the scores, it'll auto populate like with like the correct matchups and everything. So you can make a bracket of your own. We also maybe have Camcom working on one that's going to have a scoring system. I think what we're going to kind of do is like for every subsequent round, you get X2 points. So like, First round is 1, then 2 points for second round, upper bracket round 2, and then lower bracket round 3 are 4 points, etc., etc. And if you guess the game score correctly, the series and game score correctly, you get double points for that match. So like say we on our screen right now we see like Western versus USF. If you were to properly predict the winner of that series and the correct game score, you would get 4 points instead of just the 2. So make a bracket at home, send it to us. We can talk about it, and then we can try to find a way where we can all keep track of points together and have a good time.
Yeah, we don't have it officially like lined up yet, but check our social media. Once we figure out exactly how we're gonna do it and how we're gonna operate, we'll post on there. So should be fun to do a little bracket challenge. You'll be able to compete against both me and Hawk in terms of seeing how good you do. But I think with that being said, we should move on actually to the lower round 2 results, because that is what's going to be the next day of games. It actually lines up relatively nicely in that way.
Grapes, I've actually got it revealed right now. We're going to stay on your bracket. The next 2 rounds are all lower bracket. We don't have anyone dropping in out of upper bracket yet. Winning the first round, the first game in uppers,
it gets you out of two best of 5s you get to dodge away from, which is big.
So we don't have anybody dropping in from the upper bracket yet. So I'm going to reveal the next 2 rounds for you, and we're going to kind of go through like who are the 4 teams we kind of have breaking out of this start of the lower bracket here. Okay.
Sure. So we're going with my bracket first.
It's still on your bracket.
Okay. So here we go. Western lose in 3-1 fashion to USF. Watching them play against St. Clair, I think they have very identifiable weaknesses that if they don't solve before like this weekend, it's going to really hurt them. And I think that they are in danger of getting week 1. I said it on Salty Runback at the last episode, so I have them losing to USF, who I think is also a very solid team, to move on to face off against Converse, who I think is a relatively chalk victory. I do have them 3-0, which might be a little bit of a hot take, but I do think that this team is good. And also Carleton, maybe not as strong as we thought that they were as soon as they beat Boston University. They haven't been able to punch above their weight too much, other than a win against Western, actually, which is proving to be less and less exciting as we have continued to see them in the bracket. I have Grandview in the lower bracket. I know you have ISU in this situation, but I have them beating Stony Brook. I have Stony Brook taking a game, but maybe not too crazy after that. The big upset I think I have in this group, other than the Western match, is Weber State getting upset by San Jose State. Because I just, man, watching San Jose State play, it's really fun. And I think that U13 and Goku can actually get matched up pretty nicely by specifically on San Jose State, Evan Lai and Wendt. And then you have the bot lane for San Jose State, who I think really showed are a very powerful 2v2, whereas Gloomgrove and Sendy have been maybe the weaker points of this Weber team. So for me, that gives me San Jose State 3-1 over Weber. The bottom of this is a little bit more chalk. I have Purdue Northwest beating Ball State, SCAD beating OC, and then UCI and UTM moving on.
A lot of 3-2s
and then we're going
in
to the next round as well. Oh, yeah. 3 of the 4 being 3-2s. I have Converse barely beating USF. That's going to be one of my matchups to watch to start off week number 2. Also, 5-game series, as I'm not high enough on San Jose State to have them beat Grandview, but it was close. And then UTM in a 5-game banger. They lost to UCI in Playfly earlier in the year. I'll say they'd win. I'll say they win here and pull off an upset.
And so you have no bottom 16 teams rather breaking through sort of this week 2 day 1 barrier, if you will. Like, it's only going to be top 16. None of them are going to kind of get out of that pot of 4.
I guess so. I didn't think about it that way, but when you do bring it up,
because if you look at it, like, only 4 teams get out of the lower bracket from the first 3 days of games. Like, that's crazy.
So I have in terms of top 16, because I think that after week 1 we actually eliminate half of the teams. I have 2 teams from outside the top 16 making it to week 2.
Right.
But then they don't make it to the next day after that because I have them both losing. That's my take.
All right. I will say I think the San Jose over Weber State call out's pretty cool. That's one of the first deviations between our brackets that I'm noticing, because I'm just going to change it over to mine here. I didn't call that an upset, but I had it as a close series. Weber State 3-2 over SJSU. I like this Weber State team, so I choose to believe in them. Also, looks like Western is a popular
It's easy because we're high on USF too,
Right.
so that helps.
Western versus USF to me feels like Northwood versus Converse last year. Do you remember that? It feels
Yeah.
like the same energy surrounding that series, and it was like a close series that kind of ended up going the other way. Speaking of what versus Converse though, Grapes, I not only denied the rematch. If you want to look at that week 2, April 26, 2025, that top game, I have the University of South Florida making the top 12 of the College League of Legends Championship.
I could totally see it though. That's the thing. It's 100% possible.
Yeah. That's my big sauce. I also do have I called Ball State over Purdue Northwest, also in a 5-game series. Like I said, a lot of 5-game series here. Everything else relatively chalk. And I think pretty similar between us. Again, UC Berkeley going the distance against UTM. I think that's going to be a really great series if it does come through.
These teams I think also played in Playfly, if I'm not mistaken, and UTM I think 2-0'd, but I think 2-1. Okay, so I've seen more. We've seen more of Cal recently that I think we can potentially get hype up for them. You have SCAD getting in over Ball State, I guess. Like I guess I had Purdue Northwest beating them, but um, we're high on SCAD now. Is that's what we're doing?
I think they got a good roster. I don't know. I was just like, I can't have 2 teams outside of the top 16. And I think SCAD does have like a pretty realistic road here. I have it being a very close series. Again, it's just like I don't know how good I think Ball State is, and I never said I think SCAD is bad. Although I did say that they were going to be the team to 0-2 out last week, and that's not what I have.
So now you're right either way. You're either right in your bracket or right on your take on Salty Runback, and you can tweet the one that you're right about.
Yeah, I'm hedging my bets here. I don't know. I think SCAD's roster is top 12, but like, are they going to do it? That's kind of the question. I think we all have in our minds. Also ISU, after getting knocked to the lower bracket, they're not dropping a game en route to still making top 12 here.
Yeah, have a 3-0 over Weber State. I see as they get eliminated just a little bit later than I did. I think the next thing that we should do is go to look at the upper quarterfinals because that is where the losers of those series will play the next day on day 4. So who do we got? Who do we got there for you, Hawk?
Should just be good if I scroll up here. Yes, it is. Okay, wonderful. So upper quarterfinals. Oh, actually, I can reveal even more because it's just the next matches. So let me go like this. Fairly chalk. I just have the top 4 teams.
That's chalk to me.
But Grandview going the distance against Ole Miss, baby. Nightstar versus Shogo. WWE prime time. I don't know if we've actually ever seen those 2 players face off against each other, so it'd be very fun to watch.
I'm sure they played somewhere, but in terms of like a high stakes CLOL game like this, maybe not. So that I agree. Could definitely be a fun one, and I don't think we're too far apart on this. I also have the top 4 teams making it over. If you go and switch over to my bracket, I do have St. Clair taking Fisher to 5. If you're a fan of St. Clair, I think it's actually like a relatively good matchup for you to run into in being Fisher compared to Ole Miss, UST, or Maryville, in my opinion. Where I think you could take advantage of the bot lane specifically. I think that the bot lane for Fisher is probably one of the weaker sides of the map for them, where St. Clair is definitely their stronger area. So if they can do something there, maybe there's a world they jump up and take down Fisher. But I still have Fisher winning, although it being a 5-game series.
FloCon against Wayana sounds pretty hype to me. You have Northwood taking a game off of Maryville. That's a crazy take. I think that's the hottest take on this whole thing.
maybe. This is the match. You know, we saw Maryville today in the NACL actually play against Conviction, and they like almost lost a couple of those games, and so. They can play sloppy sometimes, and I feel like Northwood have the players that could maybe take a game off of them. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think about it too much, but now I'm gonna have to justify my reasoning for doing it.
I do like how you bring it up because dude, Dark Zero's had some fucking disgusting games, but I can't decide it's because like their macro is actually bad or it's like they're limit testing a lot, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit because it's like they like kind of fuck around for a little while and then they get to a team fight where they are just so much better than the other team. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Conviction.
But I can see a game. if you get a game for Northwood though, where like you end up somehow like Will has a crazy like Lee Sin or Vi game where he gets like all of a sudden Northwood's up 10 kills at 20 minutes. I feel like this is one of the teams that like actually has the talent on it to like finish the job, whereas other teams in CLOL like might not be able to do that.
I still don't even think Northwood does it unless those 10 kills all go to Instinct. And then
Yeah, sure. If Instinct's like 6-0,
I will
10 minutes
say,
in.
Sajed and Zyko have been making laning mistakes. That is definitely one of the differences between Scary Jerry and Zyko that we're seeing. I think between Scary Jerry and Sajed that we're seeing. I think Sajed has some really nice team fighting, but Jerry was a very good laner. And the laning mistakes from Zyko and Sajed actually could go punished. So I mean I see it. I don't think Northwood's the team, but I see it.
I've ISU taking a game off Ole Miss. I've Winthrop going down 3-1 to UST in a rematch of what was the Southern Conference Finals like 3 years ago, back when Winthrop played down there. And so yeah, those are the teams that we have moving on to the upper semis, and then we should drag the color back and then go down to our lower round 3 and our lower round 4, where we will get to see.
I just scroll down there. It should be good.
So Converse had a good run. I think Northwood end up taking care of business of them. I have it being a 3-0, maybe a little bit of a hot take, but I actually have
But you have
Northwood
Converse
then.
beating St. Clair. Wait a minute. We got to talk about that really quick.
Oh yeah, down there. I forgot about that. Yeah. Hey, they're gonna conquer their demons. Devin Diff down there in the bot lane.
I'm here for it.
I think this is my shot. I think Converse this would be top 8 for them if they win this. So I'll have them winning this series. The rest of it's relatively chalk. I think Grandview like could put up a fight against Northwood, but I do think they're up in terms of player skill a tier above, and so I'm gonna have them winning. I think once we get to this point in the tournament, Hawk, the resume starts to mean less to me, and the players like on the roster start to mean more. If that makes sense.
I think that's a fair take.
Because you think about like Slew, they didn't have a ton of time to practice together last year, but then as the weeks went on and as we continued to play more and more games, you suddenly remember that, oh, these are like good, solid tier 2 players, and that's what Northwood kind of feels like to me, which is why I'm like continuing to ride the wave on them and having them beat Grandview here. Winthrop win, ISU win. Then I have ISU beating Winthrop over there in that lower round 4 to start off our next week of games. I think that I don't know. This is a bit of a vibes pick here. I have to say.
I don't hate it.
It's certainly in the cards, I think.
I think ISU versus Winthrop would be an extremely good match. I mean, anything in top 8 is going to be like, what are you doing if you're not watching that shit? Winthrop versus ISU would be a great match. ISU, I definitely think they could take it. You've also got Northwood making their run to top 6 for the second consecutive year when they're not necessarily expected to. At least top 6, I should say. Which is pretty exciting. Pretty exciting stuff. So our brackets are looking a lot different at this point. I just revealed something that I'm not supposed to. No, I didn't. We're good. Oh, well, I did. Okay. It's fine.
Well, we're going to go straight into that afterwards, so it's fine.
Yeah. So, we've got, where are we starting? Lower round 4.
Oh, we really hate St. Clair. Oh, we both hate St. Clair.
Taking it, baby. Let's go. I forgot I predicted that. I'm not going to lie. I kind of thought I had USF getting out in top 12. Nope. USF top 8 in this college.
I will say, for you, like,
you want to talk about a team where the players on it actually make up more? I think South Florida legitimately has like talent on their roster, dude. Like, it's not just Dragoon. They have they got some shooters. And it's a total vibes pick.
If anything, to me, Dragoon has been the worst, like one of the worst performing players on this team.
I agree.
Not even just compared to expectations, but just overall, like in terms of his impact on the map. But now that we're like this deep into the CLOL Championship, I could absolutely see him like
where it's like, dude, you get that little bit of Dragoon, like do or die magic.
Yeah.
USF, like we saw.
I like it. I like it.
They're the only team that has not been ranked in the top 10 at some point this year that has beaten another top 10 team. Like that is, I think that has to count for something. This is, in my opinion, one of the only teams in the nation that is actually capable of
I
doing it. So I'm putting it there.
Did they beat Fisher? I don't think
Yes,
they
they
did.
beat Fisher and Playfly 2-1. Winthrop taking care of business. Grandview. Let's talk about this. They beat UCI. And we also both hate Winthrop in the top 8. Grandview
Grab me
3
the top 6.
2.
Oh my god.
Grandview to top 6. South Florida, the Cinderella ends against Music and Friends. But Grandview, I got them going.
Yeah, I just feel like Winthrop, they haven't shown us much in the last like month or so to like make us feel super confident about them. Like, sure they beat all the right. Did they? No, they took Ole Miss to 5, but then the next time they played against each other a couple weeks later, they lost 3-1. Sure, it was a tough week for them overall. Yeah, it was a tough week for them overall, but also like their performance in the NACL hasn't been super spectacular. I mean, I will say that has the same can be said about a team like Ole Miss, but yeah, something about them like maybe it might won't be one of those things where like they get too much exposure, where like a team like Grandview isn't even playing in the NACL, so we don't get to see what they look like, and
But
they
it
probably
was
would do
kind of the
just
same
as
thing as
bad.
Winthrop last year, though, where they sort of just beat everybody they were supposed to and then unceremoniously got knocked out in, what was it, top 6? Like, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that they just, like, lose in top 8 this year.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, we just have great. We have whoever we have the loser or we have the winner of the Grandview versus ISU series making it to top that
The
way.
real
basically.
takeaway from this is that I think both ISU and Grandview are the fucking goats because they're both going to top 6 and they.
Yeah, top 6 in a round 1 matchup. That's what your take is. Let's go to the upper semis and see what you have up there.
Again, I think it's pretty chalky. I don't think I have much to say. Maryville not dropping a game through the first 3 rounds. I unfortunately do not think Fisher has the sauce to do it. And then much like last year, Ole Miss making it kind of all the way where they wanted to go in the upper bracket and then running into the brick wall that is St. Thomas and not beating them and it not being very close.
3-1. Okay. So this is the team. This is the team that technically is seeded higher than Ole Miss, even though they are swapped because of the NECC rules that have been put into place. I think it might be I think it's going to be a fun series, but it definitely, in my head, is still
Well, let's see
UST
what you
favorite.
think, Mr. Grapes.
I have basically the same thing as you here, except I have it being a 3-2. I would love it to be a 5-game series between UST and Ole Miss because the storyline of Shogo going up against his old school, where he won 2 national championships on it, is always fun. Even though that team is like really not the same at all as what it was back then. The only remaining piece is Porsche, and everybody else is different. But still, I think just Shogo going up against that team is always going to be fun, and so I think it'll be a close series. But I do have UST also winning it and setting up the same upper finals matchup, Hawk, that we had last year in Maryville against UST.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just gonna go ahead and reveal this one too because I think we're basically getting to the end of our brackets. If that sounds good.
We have Maryville winning.
Yeah, we both have Maryville winning. I joked about this on I think we have the same score. Yeah, 3-1s.
3-1.
I joked about this before we went live with the pod, but I said I feel like anyone, like most people are going to have Maryville winning the whole tournament through the upper bracket, but anyone that has Maryville getting upset would have it happen in grand finals because we all know that's where they would lose. They wouldn't dare lose in the upper bracket final and go to the lower bracket. So I don't think this is the place.
There's no world in my head that Maryville are ever in the lower bracket. They either lose in grands or they make it through.
I think if you literally gave me betting odds of like Maryville versus the entire rest of the other 15 teams in the upper bracket who makes finals, I would give like Maryville the lower betting odds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they got the minus odds.
Right, exactly. Because I think it's so unlikely that the other 15 teams actually unseat them in the upper bracket. We'll see, of course. But yeah.
And so we both have Maryville beating UST 3-1 to advance to the grand finals in Raleigh. And now it's time to unveil what the rest of the bracket looks like for both of us. Are we gonna start with you? It looks like
this is my bracket. Yep.
All right.
And
Let's see. What do we got?
The Grandview story continues. 3-2 over Fisher. They can take advantage of the bottom lane. Nightstar going to be able to do it again. Castle and Jinkal are good enough to absorb the pressure that Bruness and Wyena can put down. I think Grandview actually matches up. Like, this one is a more legit prediction. I think Grandview actually has a good stylistic matchup into Fisher. And so, yeah, Grandview scaling into the season. They make top 4, and then they are unceremoniously executed by the Land Sharks. in that. They're the Northwood of last year.
They come back. It comes back to reality.
Yeah, they are the Northwood. And then I've got Ole Miss 3-2 over Illinois State University. Really close series. I'm expecting that one to be a good one, and I actually can't scroll as far as I need to. I need to move my window capture box. So let me do that really quick. So we can see kind of the rest of what's going on here. Give me hold for me, please. Apologies for the inconvenience here.
Grandview top 4 is a crazy take, but I love it.
Northwood
I
did
kind
it
of
last
love
year.
it.
Grandview can do it this year. And I've got UST against Ole Miss in the rematch in the lower bracket. It's just like the run SLU did last year, and Ole Miss is going to conquer their demons. I said they might be the team that could be closer to Maryville, and I believe they can do it. 3-2. Shogo gets a chance at his former crown after defeating the school that he created his legacy with.
I love it. Ole Miss to the finals. That would be so much fun.
You can't not be romantic about League of Legends, man.
Maryville versus Ole Miss. It would be another like NACL rematch kind of up there. And then it would just like last year. So you're trying to hold on to a lot of the parallels, a lot of the storylines as last year, because to be fair, that was one of the best CLOs we ever had.
It was the best CLO of all time for sure. So,
and I guess we maybe want to wait until to unveil your finals pick. We could see who I have going to the LAN. And guys, it may have just been the North Conference all along. The old North Conference representatives in Northwood are going to pull off the upset. They're going to make it back to top 4, just like they did last year. Go on the miracle run. Do I really believe this is going to happen? No, not really. I think Ole Miss Ole Miss should probably clear them. However, every time I predict Ole Miss in literally anything, I think I had them making the finals last year, and they finished top 8.
Did too, but I have to keep being wrong because I'm going to continue to believe in the boys.
This is, if anything, I'm reverse jinxing them in a way, but I could also see this. I could see this maybe happening. It's not super likely. However, Northwood also were not the favorites against Ole Miss in the upper bracket last year, and they 3-0'd them. Obviously, there was a bad week or a bad day for Ole Miss as a whole. Then I got the Redbirds also beating Fisher. We have our Grandview versus Fisher champion, whoever it is, going through that lower half of the lower bracket to also make it a top 4. And then I have ISU, talking about parallels from last year, a North Conference Team Hawk who loses their funding, announces that their program is going to be done. They're going to make it all the way to the LAN, beating Fisher, 3-2ing Northwood, 3-2ing UST, and then going against Maryville in Raleigh, North Carolina.
It'd be pretty fucking hype. Last year we had the crosstown rivalry. I feel like this is just another incarnation of that. ISU against Maryville. The ISU potentially going to get 15 chances to beat Maryville in a best of 5. The question is, Grapes, I'm about to scroll up and reveal it. The winner that you have, your pick to win the 2025 CLOL National Championship. Does ISU take more than a game? Drumroll, please. They do take more than a game, but they do not win
2 games.
the national
They don't
championship.
win. Because this is the story in my head. It suddenly starts to look like last year again. And everyone's like, oh my god, ISU are going to do it. They're going to win nationals. They go up 2-1. We're like, holy shit. Maryville are going to choke again. You see, like, I don't know, like the players like are pissed or something. But I think this time the team is just a little bit stronger than they were even last year. It's a Mudo on the team. I think Sajed, can be a better team fighter than Scary Jerry even. That's just kind of where his skills lie, and I feel like that's somewhere that maybe Maryville could have used a little bit of help in the grand finals against SLU. And so I have Maryville clutching up in a game 5 and winning their first CLOL title in 6 years over ISU.
In Grapes, it's a very similar story on my bracket, but it's not even a game 5. Maryville defeats Ole Miss. Ole Miss take a game. You start to think that Shogo might have the magic, but it's not even gonna have the drama. It'll be
They win game 1 for sure. They surely win game 1.
Right. It'll be just like SLU last year, where almost there's an anticlimax by the fact that they win in 4 games. You think that like the magic is with one of these teams, and then all of a sudden it just gets completely dashed. Maryville slams them into the ground. Young Surdy in the top lane does it for this team. And Maryville, same thing, lifting their first CLOL trophy in 6 years. It's crazy that they haven't won in this much time because they are the favorite every year, and yet Grapes, it feels like they have never been bigger favorites than they are right now.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, they were big favorites last year for sure, but I think this year the gap is the biggest that it's been. I think some people could have favored UST in the years that they played.
I agree.
But last year they were definitely the favorites, and then this year, absolutely, Maryville University are your favorites to win CLOL, like by far. And so a lot of pressure is on them, and you will wonder, it'll be interesting to see like how they respond to that pressure. If the grand finals of CLOL for them will be treated any differently than what most likely the grand finals of NACL will be, which happened a couple weeks afterwards. But I think it's good for us to, I think it would be pretty blasphemous for us to predict anything else other than this happening, because it just seems like it is the most obvious pick that you can make that would be correct. But we said that last year too, and that obviously wasn't always the case.
Yeah, I'm realizing I never revealed the final scores, but you can see that this is Grapes's. Everyone can see the scores. Regardless, yeah, I it feels like this should be Maryville's year. I can't exactly say I'm surprised to see that both of us did predict Maryville to win it all. They're the team to beat, but I will say both of us have like some different sauce within our brackets. It's really fun to look at what's going to happen. Like I said, we'll try to come up with that scoring system that I said. We'll try to find a way to standardize it for everyone. But I feel like that's the system we're going to go with. So make a bracket at home, send it to us, keep track of your points, and who knows, maybe we could do like a $20 RP prize to the winner if like we can get like a Google folder of brackets maybe. Ooh, that's a good idea. A Google folder of brackets. And yeah, we'll do maybe like some RP to the winners. I don't know. I'm willing to pay out of pocket for that. I think that'd be really fun. So if you want to win a prize, make sure to make a bracket, copy whatever spreadsheet link is in the description, or check us out at Salty Runback NA on Twitter for maybe a new and improved version of this. And then we'll keep score as the tournament goes for a prize on the line. You're not going to want to miss it. CLOL is here.
This is going to be one of the most chaotic weekends ever in League of Legends history. Dare I say. 24 best of 5s in 2 days. 16 on one day, 8 the next day. You're going to want to tune in wherever you can. I'm sure there will be some links around the schedule where you'll be able to see where community streams are, where code streams are. We'll put on something, whether it's kind of jumping around different streams, or maybe if there is certain matchups that have to be broadcasted, maybe that's what we'll end up doing. Not entirely sure yet. Make sure to follow all of our socials to make sure that you are definitely aware whenever we do come up with that decision.
It's going to be amazing. At Salty Runback NA, everywhere. Please like, subscribe, everything. Support the channel. It means the world. Check myself and Grapes out as well at Hawkcast, at Speedy Grapes. The Discord will be the best place that you can watch CLOL. So make sure you join that as well. But if you don't think Maryville is going to be the 2025 CLOL National Championship, if you think the drought will continue, the runner-up streak will continue, you can take what we said with a grain of salt. I've been Hawk. This has been Grapes. Have a good night, everyone.